Karen and I, when we first got married, and I'm going to tell a story because that's what we do.
That's great.
Before we got married, she came to me and she said, "Oh, just by the way," and it was just an off the cuff comment. She said, "By the way, I took the word obey out of our vows." And I was like, well, okay, why? And she proceeded to explain to me that it was only in the woman's vow, which I didn't realize, mostly because I'm a guy. I was 21. And then, I just didn't pay attention to vows that closely. And secondly, and I'm a guy, so apparently, if I'd seen the guy had to say obey, I would have been paying closer attention. But when she told me it was only in the guy's vows, and I was like, well, yeah, of course we would take it out. Obedience, in the way that we understand it, is obligatory. It's an obligation. And, I told you when I pastored, I'd have couples come in and the guy was, he didn't know a lot of scripture, but he knew wives obey your husband. I was like, well, do you know any other scriptures?
Submit one to another. Remember that?
And then I would say, well, do you know the whole context of that scripture? Because have you died for her? Because that's actually what's in there, husbands, love your wife as Christ loved the church. So I don't know it. It's a marriage built on mutual consent, a marriage built on intimacy in which I'm laying my life down for you and you're laying your life down for me. And when you have that foundation, then everything's about connection. And so my wife and I made decisions that put connection and intimacy and trust above everything else. And then in that foundation, parenting became about connection. And I remember early on, us coming to the realization that heart-to-heart connection was more important than anything else. Mm-hmm. And it became the thing that we endeavored to do once a day with each of our kids, that we would have a moment of connection, a moment of into me you see. I see you, you see me. I see who you are, heart-to-heart connection. And, I have kids that are adulting now, stepping into adulting. We went through some tough seasons. My son, those 13 to 16-year-old years, my wife says our son was easy year 1, year 2, and then difficult 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. She counts all the way up to 18. And then says 19 that he got sweetened again. But it's our joke. But I remember there would be nights where something went off in the house, and then our son I would come by the bedroom at night, and he's got his head on mom's lap, and she's just connecting with him. Mm. In the middle of that, now in hindsight, we learned things that he was going through that we didn't know about the time, that he hid. Yep. But that heart-to-heart connection took us through some storms. And I mean, right now, at midnight is bedtime. There's a routine in our house. My youngest 17-year-old goes in and lays on the bed with mom first. And then my 22-year-old lays his head on mom's lap. Mm. At 22, she scratches his head. I have to wait to go to bed sometimes for 45. But I think that on the ground level, once we understand that this is what our Father feels about us, that it's always heart-to-heart connection there, then creating a place of equality, true equality in your marriage, where you're laying your life down for one another. You're choosing to see, you're choosing to believe there for you and vice versa in all things, and for us. And then that heart-to-heart connection, I think that's the kind of thing that sustains us, is transformative. But, could be wrong, but that's what I think.